Adaloso.
What's good, everybody? Conductor of the train, your boy, DJ SJ614, and we are
the New York Dose.
And today, with us in Les Studio, talking about ethics and morals, we have with us
Louis Moreski, Allborough Promotions. What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me.
Hey.
It is Aaron Cherry, known as Cherry, Sundays with a cherry on top. Holla.
Yes, hello. Hello. Thank you for joining us, our beautiful guest today.
I love it.
We're gonna get into the last section of our show.
Yes, it is.
The subway.
The subway. And the segments in this section correlate with a few of the train lines we have in the New York City MTA subway system. And finally, addressing the dose of the day first, we try to recall how things involving the topic were handled in the past. Next, we analyze how things are going on today. Then we ride the rest of the subway before debriefing at last and figuring out possible solutions on how to make things better either in our personal lives or within the world.
So our dose of the day is ethics and morals, and our first segment is recall. So as Cherry mentioned in our A side of this episode, she invited me to this town hall at Sirius XM where Derray Mckesson was speaking about and basically kind of doing PR for his new book at that time, which is called On the Other Side of Freedom.
Yep.
Yay, got it. It was On the Other Side of Freedom, or it is On the Other Side of Freedom, which basically kind of like just detailed like different like thoughts and ideas that he had like growing up like in his life and like things like that. And something that I specifically grabbed from that town hall meeting was the topic for today. I remember that he mentioned how watching Storm from the X-Men is where he got his ethics from, like back in the day, which I thought was just like phenomenally interesting. Yeah, so the first question that I have for us in our recall segment is, where did your ethics come from in your childhood?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Louis, go first. Or I can go first if you want, but go ahead. I saw you with it popped in your head, so go first.
I can go first.
Yes.
We talked about this earlier too. So I was raised by very strong women, especially at a younger age. My mother, my cousin Jennifer, she was 2 years older than me, was like my big sister, my only child, my Aunt Brenda, and my grandmother. So knowing where I came from but seeing the roles they could play. So not only with my mother, you know, she's a woman, but she would come home and she wouldn't hesitate to put me in check real quick. She wouldn't hesitate to walk downstairs, throw the football around with me. My grandmother, very strong woman. If you had a problem and you didn't know it, she'd let you know you have a problem real quick. So that accountability, the humility, that played a lot of part in the formation of my ethics at a young age, I would say.
I love that. Absolutely.
I mean, just to piggyback off that, I feel like the same way. Like, you know, I grew up, you know, Dominican household where it was just like, you know, you just follow the rules. It was one of those situations where it's just like strong women in my life, like older sister, mother. Like I was blessed enough to have two dads in my life. So it's just like I got a lot of like more or less like good piece of energy from each. So yeah, I think the same like
so you're a family.
Yeah, like where they're a family, like very strong, like women like around where
matriarchal society.
Where kind of like discipline. Is that included in ethics?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And the culture thing too. Italian culture, matriarch, very important.
Right.
Also though, you know, I live with my mother, but my father also played a role.
Right.
And my father's very, very old school. You know, it's perceived and received differently today, especially amongst our generation.
Yeah.
But the hold the door open, the pull the chair out, this
is making a lot of sense.
And it was, and it's just, and you know, some people could take it how they want to take it.
Yeah.
You know, I could do it for myself, and this and that. But it's just how you hold yourself, and it's just something that was brought up with me, you know, through him.
That makes a lot of sense because I watch a lot of like, I'm very into like sci-fi and things like that. And you, even from like, like this relationship is new, but even like from just meeting you, like, what was it, like maybe like a month ago, you gave me very like, old vampire, like very like old vampire. Yeah, like how like they're very just classic, just
is
that
good?
It's very good. Yeah, they're very classy. Switch around the wine.
I hope that's a good thing.
Let me open the door for my mortal woman.
I'm
you know what I mean? Yeah, like that kind of thing. Amazing.
DJ, you're not making me sound good.
Cherry, what about you?
Oh gosh, my parents basically went to HBCU. They went to Southern University, and they protested on campus together. They were involved. They're very political. They're involved in like what was happening in the South. My dad is from Shreveport, Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mother was born and raised in New Orleans, and so and they met at Southern University, and they just instilling in me at a young age just that I'm meant to be here and just be black and proud and be unapologetic. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
It's like unapologetic. I can't say that word. Unapologetic. It's like it's weird. Thank you. It's like it's a tongue twister for me. But basically just walk into a room and just not apologize for the color of your skin.
So also like you had tradition instilled in me too.
Yes.
Yeah, like
even with my grandmother Cherry, my grandfather Cherry on my father's side, who's the Cherry. That's where the Cherry comes from. Just they had 10 kids. My father is 1 of 10.
Wow.
And just the way they instilled so much of respect with each other, so much of like holding the door. And like I find it as I get older hard to date in the sense of like I look at Louis and I hear what he says and I'm like, that's the way we were taught. That's the way my parents were taught. Yeah. And the men and women in my family, my aunts and uncles, and then you try to find somebody to open the door for you in 2019, and they just walk in before you. You're like
find somebody that will enter a room and say hello.
You like ninja. I'm saying ninja, but I really you like ninja. Can you hold the door open for me? Hello.
Right.
So it's very hard when you're instilled with ethics in that way, and then you start to see. I feel like a lot of that is eroding. So yeah.
Absolutely. So
you don't have ethics or
excuse me.
He said no to being a godfather.
you don't have any.
That's part of my ethics.
Maybe that's why you wanted this topic so you can learn how to gain something.
Excuse me. I have, a very high level of, ethics and morals.
Do you?
Me personally, I can see. So I feel like the common thread between all of you is that it's rooted in family. It came from family. The ancestry, tradition, things like that. I don't care about any of that stuff.
I know.
So we can tell. So I think this
about your ancestors?
I mean, of course I do.
Okay,
but
so then you should care
not
about that.
enough for me to root my ethics into it. I don't think that.
Like you can hold the door open for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go.
But for you, it's more based upon your own.
Exactly. So and it sounds crazy, but I really I can't remember the specific term anymore, but I was listening to Oprah Super Soul Conversations a long time ago, and she had this guy on, and they were speaking about basically how we live these different lives that lead us up until our 9th or 10th sequence or something like that, and after your 9th version of yourself, that's when you're not reborn anymore, but you have those 9 chances to keep coming back and kind of just being the best version of you that you can be within that lifespan, right? So when I was younger, I really was, I feel I had a lot of knowledge that other younger children didn't have, and I was really kind of just operating on my own. I really was kind of just compiling my own thoughts and things like that, and I really specifically.
But the knowledge didn't come from your parents?
Honestly, no.
Okay, so you self-learned is what you're saying?
I'm very big on the fact that I did self-learn. Now, of course, my father,
another story.
It's a different story. But my mother was with me every step of the way, that kind of thing. But I think being an only child, she knew how to let me rock. You know what I mean? I was not a needy. I don't remember being a needy child. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I think like I'm not a mom or anything, but I deal with kids a lot.
Yeah.
I'm around moms a lot. Where it's just like the only child, like especially like if you think of the development of children, like I feel like at the age of like what 7, maybe 8, you guys are already pretty like independent. You know, like in a way where you know how to like.
I knew how to guide myself.
Yeah, so I can just imagine, like, I'm just imagining you, like, at that age, just, like, really being, like,
I was and it's weird because, of course, like, I wasn't on my own, like, my mom was there providing, but, like, mentally, I was good. Like, I was, like, coming up with my own theories, telling myself who I wanted to be. I knew what I wanted to do from the age of 8, you know what I mean? Like, I was, like, very kind of just like, all right, this is who I am as a person. Yeah, I was very sure of myself from a very young age. And aside from that, I feel like a lot of my ethics also came from media, specifically TV, and I didn't realize this until like this now period in my life. No, not Bad Girls. I don't think Bad Girls Club was around back then.
No,
but specifically, Sailor Moon. Funny enough. So Sailor Moon was like this like cartoon that came on Cartoon Network back in the day, and it was always like Dragon Ball. Like everybody in our generation is either crazy over like Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z. And the reason why I say that I feel like a lot of my morals and my ethics are rooted in Sailor Moon is because I went back like maybe like 3 years ago and like watched those old episodes, and I saw that after every episode of Sailor Moon, they always had this little PSA at the end that kind of like recapped the theme of the episode, and it will always be like, treat your friends with love. They're, you know, those are who you're gonna have for the rest of your life, or like be kind to the people around you, and like blah 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 blah. Like it was always messages like that, and I look at me today and realize like the amount of friends that I have around me, and I really think that it's because subconsciously I was learning these tactics from Sailor Moon back in the day that was basically like, yo, you need to have all your Sailor Scouts to succeed. Like you need a team, you need this, you need that, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's where my morals and ethics were
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon,
So shout out to Sailor Moon.
Shout out to Sailor Moon.
Mama Tisha, he said that you didn't teach him. He said you just created him and left him be.
Just like, you know, honestly, like just like, and I guess this will guide us into like the next phase, but you know, I feel like I tell people a lot of the time that what I learned from going to Buffalo State College was how to be an independent artist. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if I would have went to a conservatory...
in a way, I don't have to be independent as a person,
Well, for me personally, because like while I was on that campus in my field, I was very active, you know what I mean? And not only in doing the shows that they gave me, but that's where I wrote, you know, like my first show and established my own like little independent like theater company amongst me and my peers, and we started doing shows on our own outside of the department, you know what I mean? So I feel like had I not gone to Buff State, I wouldn't have learned how to create my own work, you know? I would have been very dependent on coming back to New York City and always feeling like I have to audition and I have to wait for someone to give me that green light and give me that go. I feel like it was at Buff State that I learned how to take charge. And I feel like back in the day, it was my mother letting me rock that taught me, you know, in a subtle way, how to take charge on my own, you know, not having to yada yada, that and the third. So, yes.
It's a sidebar. When you went to go visit Buff State, did you feel like, yes,
I didn't go visit.
You didn't go, you just went?
Yeah, I knew. You know, I'm connected with the spirits.
But that's crazy that you felt that, though, because I feel like that still correlates to, like, what I felt, because I went on an EOP trip. I was EOP.
I was EOP too,
So I did the EOP trip. You know, they picked us up on 42nd Street in front of the big ass library, and we took a Greyhound over there. And that was like the first. We stayed there for like maybe the weekend. It was like Saturday, then we left Sunday, right? And I was just like, I totally felt like just like, okay, I belong here. This is it, you know. And I wanted to know if you felt that too.
Yeah, so the guy came to TU actually. He was like speaking in our lunchroom to the seniors about it. And I was actually dead set on not going to college. Like I was not going to go. I had applied to no schools my senior year. And it wasn't until like he came and gave us that conversation that I was like, okay, Buffet is where I want to apply. Like my aunt went there also. And I was like, and let me throw in these other schools also.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how that went down.
That's all I wanted to know.
But moving into our next segment, this is Analyze. So this is where we're going to get into the today of everything. So first, I want to begin this section by analyzing the definition of...
Can I say the definition of ethics?
Please do. Go ahead.
Because I had it pulled up.
That's right. Go off.
So ethics is a noun, and it's according to dictionary.com, it's moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. And the example they give is medical ethics also enter into the question.
Well, there's that.
And synonyms are moral code, morals, morality, moral stand, all that with morals.
Lots of things about principles and behaviors,
Conduct,
virtues,
standards, behavior, all of that.
things like that. So, yeah, it's kind of just like who you are and how you operate, I guess.
But I guess it's the same definition of morals, if morals is a synonym.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, why is it two different words?
They say that moral is a lesson, especially one concerning what is right or prudent, that can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. So I guess they're not the exact same thing, but they marry one another. Because maybe it's by learning these lessons and gaining morals that compile your ethics.
Yes.
And that's true.
That's
that I
exactly
can see that. But I feel like a lot of people be like, you don't have any morals. I feel like they should say you don't have any ethics more than morals. Because if morals is something that compiles something, then why? You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
I think that ethics is the practice of morals, right? So I think that ethics is who you are, but it's a relationship between who you are and how you react. So it's ever changing, you know what I mean? So you know who you are, but if a certain situation, comes about, ethical practice in that pertains to that certain situation, I mean, it'll change. You have your morals, but ethically, given the situation, that marriage that you just talked about, I mean, that's what it's about.
I can see that too. I like that. Yeah. So my first question in this section is, where does the source of your ethics and morals come from today? I feel like over time we always grow and learn new things, and I don't watch Sailor Moon anymore,
Right.
So my source is different now. So where are you learning from in this point in your life?
Where am I learning from? Ooh, right. Of course, is the circle I keep around. I really feed off of energy, as cliche as that sounds right now, because that's the trend. It's like good vibes.
Right.
Keep your tribe. Tribe.
But
all that.
it's cliche.
But it's cliche for a reason, but it's also like it's true. You know, so it's like I think that's where I'm getting it. But I think in this day and age where it's like we already have it instilled in us, and I think it's like
it's about fortifying.
It's amazing if you can add on to it, but I think more or less, especially in the age that I'm in, where it's just instilled already, and that's just what I go by, which is what came from my parents, how I grew up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sherry, I know you had something.
Well, I was gonna say I do agree with it, with it being instilled in me. It resonates with me more, and I'm proud to say that it hasn't left in the climate that we're in, because especially in this day and age when there's a lot of anti-blackness, when there's a lot of anti-Muslim, there's a lot of just LGBTQ, anti, right? I'm anti-immigrant. I can go on and on and on.
Just more things coming to light. It's always been there.
Yeah, it's always been there, right? And so I feel like that for me, I feel like I passed the test, because when all these things, because growing up, you know what's there, but then when you see it played out the way that it's played out through policy, right? And every day you wake up, you can't have a break, you can't catch a breath. You wake up, and next thing you know, it's like we're leaving the guns peace treaty. And next thing you know, we're leaving the climate change. We're leaving like there's all the stuff the U.S. is like. Now we're standing with Syria. We're standing with all these people, and it just resonates in me that I passed the test because no matter what happens, my ethics and morals only grow and get rooted
Yes.
into the ground more like a fucking tree.
That's right.
Like, you know, it's like I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water.
Yes.
So for me, it's like that encourages me to keep going, but I get tired.
Yeah.
You know, but they say, you know, it's like a mirror, but every time something comes up, I'm like, my ethics and morals come to play where I'm just like, I will not be moved. I will not be swayed. I'm going to keep fighting for us and against these policies that are hurting the country and hurting black and brown people and also hurting immigrants and also just hurting people who, you know, like the white allies, hurting the white allies too who are on our side.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the policies under this administration that's being thrown in my face every day only instills my ethics and morals deeper into the ground.
Yeah. Oh, love it.
I love everything that you just
Yes.
said.
What about you, Louis?
So I believe that the morals are instilled at a young age. I'm not going to say ever changing, but I think that they are constantly evolving. And I think that as I grow older, a lot of my ethics comes from things that are unfamiliar. So I think that a lot of things where people become anti is because they are uncomfortable with things that are unfamiliar.
Yep.
And just because of that doesn't mean you have to be, you know, against it. So even like stepping into something like this today that I've never done before, it's that is the second before you do it, and you're like, maybe you know, that the second thought, just like your text, that second thought, and you step forward. So I think it's where I draw from today is the unfamiliar, and really trying to for myself to wrap my hands around that unfamiliar. And get comfortable with it, you know. And if it's not for me, then at least I gave it the try, and it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it.
I love it as well. I think for me, so like all of you have said so far, like a lot of my ethics and morals are already here, and it's all about fortifying at this stage right now. I do believe that something, going back to what you said, Addie, with like the people like around you, I do believe that when new people come into my life, I do think that they are here to bring me a certain lesson. So I try
and some values.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And that might be positive value or negative value in the sense that you are teaching me what not to look for in the next person after you or anything like that, right? Or you are teaching me what I will no longer tolerate, you know what I mean,
Right.
going forward. So I feel like I get my ethics and morals from those around me as well. Still from, I don't think so heavily from media today, especially with like all like the fake news and things like that. I don't think that any of us pay too much attention anymore to what's happening on the television or on the whatever. But as far as new media goes, we have all these wonderful outlets like podcasts now, where I'll say personally, where I am learning lots of new things. Like listening to Oprah's Super Soul Conversations has opened my mind to a lot more aspects of like life and the self-conscious and things like that. Listening to a podcast like Brilliant Idiots has allowed me to tell myself that it's okay, that I do not know a lot of things, you know what I mean? And it's okay to admit that, because, you know, as much as people don't like him, but one of the most fabulous things that I learned from Charlamagne the God is that the smartest person in the room is the one that's asking the questions, you know, not the one that's assuming that they do already know everything. So I guess I can say that new media is where my new ethics and morals might be coming from, but at this stage it is about fortifying the ones that I already have and have already learned. So
I love it.
yeah, super dope. What about you, Adaloso?
But this is the source. I won already.
No, you did. Your question to our guest.
Oh yeah. How important are ethics and morals to you and in others? Like, especially when you're starting relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, I feel like number one plays a major part, at least for me. And just friendship or even business partnership. Like how how big does it play in those type of relationships, and is that the number one thing that you're looking for when building a relationship?
Yeah, character for me is the most important thing that there is. Like I said, accountability, humility, and ambition, I think, are the three things that make up character.
And you think that all falls under morals, like morals, character? Do you feel like that's the layering, or like?
I feel like it's combined, because for me, when I think about my tribe that I'm around, because the older I get, the less, I don't need 10,000 friends. Like when you're in high school, you want a whole bunch of friends.
Right.
And now I'm like, I just want my 5, my 6.
Right,
you know?
I'm good with that.
I'm good, right? And so I have my 5 or 6, and I think about my tribe and how we all, you know, we think alike in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, we disagree on a lot of things, but it's all rooted, but we all come from a good place.
Right.
They're good people. They're morally sound. Their ethics are intact. And politically, we might disagree on things, or the way we view how we approach a relationship. Should a guy approach you? Should a girl approach you? And things like that. Mm-hmm. But overall, I just feel like their character, even when they're by themselves, they're good people. Because, you know, like, that's the test of your character. What do you do when you're by yourself, right? In the room, when no one's looking. And as far as dating, for me, especially as I get older, especially under this administration, I need you to be on point. I need you to come correct. I need you to be morally sound. And if you're looking at my community and you have one negative thing to say that's not constructive, I'm out.
That's an interesting relationship. Like, you could say something negative, but it could be constructive.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you know, character as in, so you can't understand somebody that doesn't understand himself. You know what I mean? But it's important to detach from that, because if that is the case, that's okay. That'll take their time to do what they need to do to figure themselves out. For me personally, you know, a man that knows something knows he knows nothing at all, right? So I constantly, even when I am uncertain about some things, I know myself. Even if I second guess myself, I know that the reason why I reacted the way I did is because that was my fate. That's how that was the calling that I was supposed to. That was what was supposed to happen. And I'm confident in that fact, that at least I know myself. So therefore, you know, if it's on things work out, business, romantic, whatever, with another person, I still know what I'm looking for, and I still know, you know, what has to mix.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
The marathon continues.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love it.
Ethics and morals are very important, I mean, to me personally, and one of my biggest things, I mean, and this will come up in a later question, but one of my biggest things is I'm very old-fashioned and traditional in the sense of I still believe in people's word, and I hold, so like, you know, I'm a Gemini, and we hold language and communication are like core values.
Yeah,
for
Gemini as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, absolutely.
You're a Gemini?
Yeah, y'all already know. What? I'm about to kill it though. Fuck out of here. Let's go. What's good, everybody? What's good? What's good, everybody? What's good? What's good, everybody? What's good? What's good, everybody? Hey, what's good, everybody? Hey, what's good, everybody? Hey, what's good, everybody? Hey, what's good, everybody? The original, since I starting on these bitches invisible. Copy everything I do, so typical. Ain't you wondering why these chickens are quizzical? Started off one day, had me saying things the Hispanic girls say, hating when we call the shit Spanish girls say.